Alright guys, we're going to show you how we open pools here in southern North Carolina. You can follow this video step by step or you can do it in your own steps. This is just how we do it. Alright, we're going to start off by go ahead and hanging our salt system back to where we took it off at when we closed the pool. When we take it off, we leave the screws in so that way we can put it right back in the same exact location. That way the customer goes back to using her pool the way she used it when she closed it. Moving on to our pump and filter. Now we're going to grab all of our stuff out of our pump basket. We store everything small that comes off your pump and filter in our pump basket so that way it don't get misplaced in your garage shed over the winter. These are the O-rings to your salt system, your sand filter cap, your return eyeball, and the plug that goes to the bottom of your pump. Once we grab this plug, we're going to go ahead and screw it into the bottom of our pump. We're going to get it hand tightened, and then we're going to come back and tighten it up with a flathead. Now we're going to move on to our sand filter cap. We're going to screw it on with our hand and get it snugged up with our hand, and then we'll come back with channel locks and tighten it. So now here's a little pro tip. This is O-ring lube. We're going to take this O-ring lube and we're going to spread it around the O-ring of the pump lid. We're going to take and do this to make it to where the pump lid is easier to take off and on. Because as a lot of you know, once your pump lid has been on for a while, it can become hard to take off. Now we're going to move on to the salt cell. We're going to take our O-rings. There's a groove on the bottom of your salt collar and the top of your salt collar where these O-rings sit. Once you install these O-rings in that groove, always take your hand and run across to make sure the O-ring is sitting flat on the top and the bottom, so that way you don't have no leaks when you install your salt cell. Here's another little pro tip. You're going to take your O-ring lube and you're going to spread it around the threads of your salt cell. Here's the deal. Every 500 hours, you have to take your salt cell off and clean it and inspect it. This is going to make it where when you have to take it off and inspect it, it's going to be easier to take off. Also recommend when you take your salt cell off to clean it and inspect it, lube up the threads every time. It's going to save you a lot of headache in the long run. Now insert your salt cell, tighten your top collar down all the way, hand tight. And then to do the same for the bottom. Then we're going to come back with channel locks, just like our sand filter cap, and tighten both of them down snug with the channel locks. When snugging up the salt cell and the sand filter cap, you don't have to tighten it extremely tight. You just want it nice and snug. Now we're going to take our sand filter, and it's on winter for winterizing. Now we're going to take it and we're going to put it on our filter setting because this is where it lives 90% of the time. Now we're going to grab our cord for our salt cell and our cord for our pump, and we're going to hook it up to our salt box. The pump plugs into the bottom of your Hayward Salt box. Then open your box up, and that's where your salt cell cord is going to plug up. It's going to plug up right there in the front of your box. There's a little groove for your salt cell cord to plug into. Make sure it's in all the way. We're going to plug in our salt system. Now it's time to set it up. We're going to take and set the timer. Here in southern North Carolina, we like to run our pump 12 hours a day in the middle of the summer. So we like to set our customers from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Inside of this timer is like a little analog clock. So here, when we're shooting this video, it's almost 8 a.m. So we're going to turn this dial to where it says almost 8 a.m. Now, the dial set. It's on off. We can turn it into the middle to where it'll run 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Or we can go all the way on to where it runs 24/7. We want to make sure that our chlorine switch is on auto and that our dial for our desired output is set to where we want it to be. We're going to remove the cover now. You're going to go to where the cables come together and you're going to loosen up this winch. We're not going to take the winch all the way off. We just want it loose enough to where we can get the cable off. Now this next part is always easier when you got two people to take the cover off. Grab anything off the cover that's on the cover. It could be toys, your pump, whatever you have on top of the cover, if you have anything on the cover. Now it's time to grab the cover off. You're going to stand across from each other and you're going to pull this cover tight towards each one of y'all. That way, there's nothing that's on the cover, the water, debris, what have you from the wintertime that can escape this cover and go into our pool. As you're pulling the cover off, start folding it over. That way you can keep all that debris in and none of that debris escapes the cover and gets into the pool. Now this next part, if you have some water on your cover and you can't get the water off by grabbing the cover because it's too heavy, you can get a pump, siphon it off, get a water hose and siphon it off, whatever you have or whatever you want to use to get it off. That way you don't dump that water back into your pool. Now we're going to lay the cover out, and we want this cover to dry before we fold it up and store it for the summertime. The key is getting this cover to last as long as we can. So properly storing it in the summertime is the best way to do that to make it last the longest. Now we're going to secure our steps or our ladder, whatever you have for your pool, back to where it was at. This situation, they have steps. So what we do with our steps in the wintertime is we just fold them over in the pool. Now we're going to pick them up and we're going to secure them back in the spot that they had it. If you have a ladder, what we do is we take the ladder completely out of our pool and we close it. So if you do have a ladder, you're going to grab your ladder and you're just going to put it back into your pool wherever you had it at. Now we're going to remove our plugs from our skimmer and return. Inside the skimmer, there's a plug. It's called a gizmo. So we're going to take and pull the basket off top of it, and we're going to unscrew this plug. After unscrewing the plug, I like to make sure the flap that sits inside of the skimmer is folded back. So I put my basket in and I look in there, and if it's folded forward, we're going to fold that back the way it's supposed to be. That way it don't block no water whenever you take and turn your pump on. Now we're going to put our lid back on. See how this lid has tabs? You line it up with the tabs on your skimmer and put it on. And barely turn it just to hold it. Now we're going to unscrew the plug out of our return. After you unscrew that plug, you're going to take your return eyeball that you kept inside of your pump basket this winter, and you're going to screw it back in. As you screw it in, you're going to line it up the way that you want it to go. You want it pointing downward at an angle. That way it blows sideways towards the floor and kicks up the stuff on the floor past your skimmer. Now, you just need to fill your pool back to where it's supposed to be. We like to take and fill our pool when I first start off from the second screw from the top. Keeping the water between the second and third screw is your bare minimum. I like to keep mine at the second screw from the top so I don't have to worry about my pump sucking any air and causing my pump and filter not to circulate correct. Now we're going to go through here and just double check everything, make sure everything's nice and snug and nothing can leak. Now the final step here is you're going to top your pool off and then let your pump run for a day or so and then check your chemicals and adjust your chemicals to where you need them to be and your salt level. We have a video on chemicals that you can check out. We'll leave a description at the end and let you see it of our most valuable chemical information.